regardless of, from the beginning of the season to the end, that we were going to win every single game.
And I'll tell you, for people listening, especially for kids, sometimes things sound cliche because they get said all the time. And you thought about leaving and going somewhere else, and instead you decided to give it your all and do what you were doing. And then it has to be not only redeeming personally for you, a good feeling, but to, for somebody else that hears the same thing and goes, yeah, whatever, you want me to be a good teammate, you want me to work hard, but, I should be starting or whatever, when those two games come up down the stretch. Illinois and Michigan, bam, your number's called and you hit pay dirt and you help, and that's your contribution to that championship. How redeeming is that to you personally to be in those moments?
Yeah, I mean, it was a blessing. I was fortunate enough to be ready and be in that position and be given that opportunity to do it, and it ended up working out. So it definitely felt great. I'll never forget the moment in Ohio Stadium when I scored that touchdown and how loud it was. Everyone in the stadium. So that's something that I'll plan for Ohio State for sure.
And the win over Michigan, it all led to the national title game, which to this day I will still put in the top maybe 5, if you want to even be picky, of the best national title games there is. The drama of the way that thing went down. We just watched it. You got to be a part of it. Talk to me a little bit about that BCS title game with Miami and Ohio State.
Oh man, it was crazy. I mean, energy was high, and obviously we were in Arizona, so we're far away from Ohio, and getting a lot of this national coverage, and it was an exciting experience. And then going into the game where we're not, they didn't give us a chance. We're playing against, came out of Miami Hurricanes with Willis McGahee and Andre Johnson and Jonathan Dilma and Ken Dorsey. We got first rounders everywhere, but it was a great experience. Seeing their current NFL players on the sidelines of both of our sidelines and their sidelines. You're like, man, this game's huge. This must be a big game. And obviously we thought it was it was a big game for us. But the funny part is I didn't realize how big of a game that was to everyone else until probably I stopped playing. And then I realized, man, that game really, I think, changed a little bit of Ohio State football. It really brought us to another level, in my opinion. And I think the fans, they just supported us all season, man. And it was such a great experience to just be a part of something like that.
Oh, I agree with you, too, about the significance to that, to Ohio State. 4th down, end of the game. Was there a moment there when you thought, man, no, it can't end like this? And then, boom, the flag, the call, the game continues. But for a moment, did you guys think the gig was up?
I think I thought exactly what you just said. No, the game can't end like this. That's exactly what I thought. And I felt like everyone on our side was just like literally looking for something. It was like everyone was like frozen in a trance. Like this can't be it. And fortunately enough, we got the flag and were able to keep playing. So that was crazy. It was crazy. It was a crazy experience.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, man. As a matter of fact, I did not know this, but that ended up being I didn't know there was even one of the best 18 sports magazines. So there you go, man. It's held up to the end. Yeah, I didn't even know that was such a thing. Referee magazine. Who knew? But there you go, man. But and there you go, national champions, and a season still, as we talked about, that's still talked about this day. And that game, one of the best national title games in college football history, no doubt. You got to be a part of that. And then you were there for a couple more seasons. You were there for 2 more years after that. And you went to, was it the Fiesta Bowl the next season, I believe it was?
Yeah, we went to the Fiesta Bowl and then went to the Alamo Bowl my senior year. So I know the Fiesta Bowl loved us. We kept going back there.
Oh, yeah. So, they love the Buckeyes.
Yeah, so that was a great time. Every time we went back, we saw seeing the same people and staying in the same hotel. You really couldn't beat that atmosphere.
They ended up, what was it? It wasn't until the next season. It was a sixth game in when you guys lost. Now I've got it pulled up here, Wisconsin. So what was it, 19, 20, 21 in a row? What was the streak that the team ended up being on?
It was something like that.
I don't have the exact number, but yeah, it was some run like that, yeah. And so there, your career winds up. Now, talk to me a bit about that. You reached the end. You had already reached the summit. Were the last 2 years a little different because it was so early in your career that you guys reached that summit and that peak with not just the championship, but all the talent and everything that was on that team? What were the next 2 seasons like? Was it around Ohio State? I mean, anything short of the best is sometimes a disappointment no matter what. Was it hard to balance that with you guys, that you still had a good season, but sometimes that wasn't good enough? Talk to me about your last 2 years.
Yeah, well, my junior year, if you remember, we came in preseason number 1 in the country.
Yeah.
And we went basically all the way down to the wire. We still at the end of that season, if we beat Michigan, we go back to the national championship. And for me, that wasn't the best year because I did get injured. I tore both my knees that year early on in the season, and initially I was told it was just tendonitis, and then finally when I got an MRI, I was told it was, I had a tear in my right knee, and it was one of those things of, hey, you got a tear in your knee. I don't think it's going to get any worse, and by the way, you're starting. So, of course, I'm like, I want to play, and I want to start, and this is my moment. So, I decide that I'm gonna play, and as a consolation prize, I was overcompensating on my right knee or my left knee, and ended up tearing that one as well. So then I go through basically my entire junior year with 2 torn knees, and the more I obviously play on it, the worse they get, to where I started off the season starting to toward the end of the season barely playing that much. So that was a very disappointing time for me, and especially for the team as well, because we did have that chance to go back to a national championship, and we ended up losing that last game against Michigan, which stopped us from going. So that was into the senior year. We as always have high hopes of playing for a BCS, playing in a BCS game and going to especially the national championship, since we had that success so early on. And that season we just kind of couldn't come together enough and make the plays that we needed to make in order to win those games that we lost. And but we ended on a high note by beating Kansas State in the Alamo Bowl, and that was it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, looking too, I was just pulling up that 2003 season, and I saw it had to be doubly frustrating because not only were you starting, but you had the 100-yard game against Bowling Green, and it seemed like, wait your turn, and there you had done exactly what they asked you to do, and here your turn comes, and then boom, and then, it was just from there, even when you left. Talk to me a bit about your transition there. How did you transition there and attempt to go into the NFL? Were those the same injuries that hurt you in your attempts to go to the NFL?
Yeah, it was, and I felt pretty good about them in my senior year. I felt better about them, but once I ended up getting picked up by the San Diego Chargers, and went there and kind of basically hurt my knee again while I was in camp, and that kind of disappointed me, obviously, and I believe hurt my chances when you got people up there like LaDainian Tomlinson and Michael Turner, and if you're competing with guys like that, you need to really be healthy, and that, I think, really hurt me. And obviously Darren Sproles, him and I came in the same year over in San Diego, so with me having that injury, it really hurt me, and I ended up getting released from them. And I had a couple other opportunities to go try out and things like that, but I think at that time I was so depressed and that I just said, you know what, forget it. And I was, I just wanted to move on, and I was given a great opportunity by, current director of athletics, Gene Smith at Ohio State, to do an internship under him and learn the business side of athletics while getting my master's degree. So I ended up taking that road. And leaving football, and that led me to, start working for our local Columbus station. I started with ABC doing some sports analyst stuff, and then moved over to NBC, where I was with them for about 3 or 4 years before I moved to moved to Los Angeles, California to pursue acting. And that's how I got here to LA, and I've been making progress in the acting field since.
You're listening to the Sports Fix on the Sports Fix Radio Network. We're talking to former Buckeye national champion running back Maurice Hall. And when you talked about that, going to the Chargers and then deciding to take that opportunity, which I wanted to ask you how that came about with Gene Smith, but was that the first time, or had it been with your injury your junior year or your senior year? When was the first time you truly said, man, maybe I'm not going to play at the next level? Did you believe that you were going to play in the NFL up until you got to Chargers camp, or at what point did you go, man, I've got to start figuring out what I may do next?
Yeah, I don't think I ever put too much thought into it until I got released by the Chargers. And obviously, even for the NFL during the draft, it was so funny because I got a call. So I got a call from one of the coaches at the Atlanta Falcons saying, hey, if you're available for our next pick in the 4th round, we are going to pick you up. So I'm super excited. I'm like, yes, this is what I've been waiting for. Atlanta Falcons pick comes up. They draft the running back from Michigan State. That also is a kicker returner as well, Hart Drops.
Oh.
And after that, I end up not getting drafted at all, and I get picked up by San Diego. And then, I have the injury in San Diego. So it was like, man, things were just piling up. And I think, because of those things, at that point, I don't think I was strong enough. And, that's why I was just like, I was so frustrated. And like I said, I probably was depressed literally. And I just decided I was going to move on. And, and I saw this other opportunity, and that just made it even more enticing to just go ahead and take that opportunity versus try to make another team and go through that process as well.
So you intern with Gene Smith in the athletic department there. How did that come about? Did they find you? Did you find them? Or do they have the program for alumni, that the transition program? How did that work that you got hooked up with them?
So that was actually Gene Smith's first year was when I graduated. And I had heard that he had done like these kind of internships at the other universities he had been at. So so Coach Tressel reached out to Gene, and without my knowledge, and said, hey, I think Maurice would be a good person for, if you do this internship here at Ohio State, I think Maurice would be a good person for that. So Gene actually reached out to me and said, hey, I'm doing this internship. This is what it's about. And I'd love to have you be the first person, to take advantage of this internship. And he was like, I know you're playing, you're pursuing, the pro ball right now, but whenever you're ready, I got it for you. So I think that was an awesome thing that Gene offered me and gave me that opportunity to do, which is why I was even more excited to take advantage of that opportunity.
What were you doing? Were you working just in general in the athletics department, or was there a certain...
So basically every quarter I rotated to different departments.